All right, huge congratulations. You've made it through Nourishment Navigation. As you've taken action on these lessons, you've started to transform your relationship with food and develop the real skills that serve you for the long run. You've learned the 4 principles, the 3 priorities, and 8 skills that form the foundation of properly fueling your brain and body for peak performance every day. You've learned to recognize patterns that haven't been serving you, and you've started to replace them with choices that fuel your vitality and practice these new choices so that they feel more natural. In this video, we're discussing how to monitor and refine your approach with nutrition for the long run. This ability to monitor your progress is key so that you can make adjustments as necessary to achieve your goal and maintain your results. It's important for you to have enough data to be able to make informed decisions that keep you on track. This means being consistent about logging your macros and physical activity daily and reviewing this data every 2 to 4 weeks to be able to make sure that you have been consistent and on track for your goal. Again, so that you can ultimately be free of this kind of logging, it's necessary to develop these skills on purpose. You can't skip the skill development if you want to navigate future meals successfully. Especially early on when you're new to our process, you should not make adjustments more frequently than 2 weeks, even if you're feeling impatient and want specific results now. Your body is giving us important data, and when you're creating a lifestyle shift, you simply can't rush a sustainable solution. Waiting at least 2 weeks also allows you to focus on your daily priorities and simply make sure that you're meeting your targets. Back in skill number 1, we identified your sweet spot numbers. Specifically on that page, you identified your target daily calorie intake and your ideal macronutrient distribution. You will notice that there's a delay between eating the food and seeing the results on your body composition scale. So it's important for you not to make adjustments to your target daily calorie intake or your ideal macronutrient distribution too quickly, because you won't find out what's exactly working for you if you jump around too fast. You are going to learn so much about your brain and body and how to actually operate for peak performance just by being steady and consistent with this. There may be some days when you weigh in on your body composition scale and you're not thrilled by the data. We've all been there. The thing is that your body composition data is kind of like the stock market. There will be daily fluctuations that go up and down, and it's not necessarily bad news. But if you're watching it like a hawk and making hasty decisions just based on emotions, you will not win in the long run because those daily fluctuations do not show you the trends or the larger picture. In the stock market, if you sell too early, you can miss out on long-term benefits and gains. And with your body composition, if you get emotional and change your eating patterns before you collect enough data, you can likewise miss out on long-term benefits and gains for your health and longevity. So like we mentioned, this process of monitoring and refining is something that should happen every 2 to 4 weeks. In your playbook, you'll see that starting on page 78, we've given you room to do 2 types of activities. Page 78 and 79 is the calibration. It looks like this, and we'll talk in a minute about when you want to use those. And starting on page 80, you've got a series of monthly check-ins. Obviously, those are monthly, and for the reasons that we just discussed, you should give yourself a full month before starting to answer those questions, and then a month between, so that you have enough data and experience of living with the results to make any additional shifts. And if you're really about that life, you can fill in the monthly check-ins every 2 weeks, but we don't recommend doing it more frequently than 2 weeks.
So let's start off with the first sheets on page 78 and 79, where you can see monitoring and refining the calibration questions. The reason that we gave you these is because while you develop your confidence and skills, there will probably be times when you realize you didn't hit the calorie percent difference that you wanted. For example, if your goal is to eat plus or minus 5% deficit, but you realize that you accidentally ate at a 30% deficit or surplus, then it would be useful for you to answer these questions. And here's an example of how you would fill that out. First, you'd write the date down, April 12th. Then you'd give a brief description of what happened or what you noticed. For example, as I look back at my priority monitoring spreadsheet, I might notice that I did a really intense DIY project for a few hours. I got in over 13,000 steps that day, which is a lot for me, and my total calorie burn was 2,077. And without realizing it, I ate 2,489 calories, which put me at a 20% surplus. When I look back at my food log for that day, I noticed that we went out to eat for an early dinner. I used skill 8 and estimated what I had at the restaurant, including my dessert. So I logged all of that. After that, back at home a few hours later, I felt a little hungry, so I had a second dessert. This is where I went overboard and the surplus happened. So I would write I ate at 20% surplus because I had second dessert. Then you'd move to question number 2. What could I have done differently to stay on track, both in terms of my physical activity and food? So to figure this out, I want to review the 3 priorities. Priority number 1 is about the activity level, and I'm happy with that. I had a good activity level, vigorous activity, so there's nothing that I would change about that. Priority number 2 is making sure to get enough protein, and again, I'm in good shape. I hit my daily minimum target by getting 122 grams. But priority number 3 is where things get a little bit off track. The calorie percent difference is where I went wrong. So what could I have done differently? Well, I could have replaced the entire second dessert with a serving of fiber like psyllium husk and some tea so that I could fill up my stomach and not feel hungry, but also give my body some more to work with to digest that big meal out that I had. And then the final question is, what am I doing today to set myself up for success? To answer this, let's go back to the 4 principles and see which one applies in this situation. Principle number 1 is the one about moderation, and clearly my second dessert doesn't fall into the category of moderation. So here I would write that what I'm doing today to set myself up for success is acknowledging that even in vigorous activity, when I'm burning lots of calories, moderation matters, and especially at the end of the night, I should think strategically about my food. That doesn't mean that I'm going to restrict a bunch of things today. That doesn't mean that I'm going to eat less or skip meals today. I'm not punishing myself to make up for yesterday. I'm simply reminding myself that moderation matters and I have opportunities for that today. You can see that after you answer the 3 calibration questions, you've learned something valuable about what happened, and you've made some important choices about what you could do differently next time. This approach will accelerate the development of your skills as well as help you bring the kindness and patience that's necessary for sustainable progress. Next, let's look at page 80 where the monthly check-in questions start. As a quick example, you would write the month up top, in my case May, and first I want to review my monthly average protein intake, calories burned, and the calorie percent difference. So to find those, I'll look at my spreadsheet for priority monitoring, and I'll look down here at this bottom gold row, which is the monthly average. And I'm going to transfer those numbers. I averaged 131.4 grams of protein, so I'll round that to 131. In terms of calories burned, I averaged 1,756.9. So again, I'll just round that to 1,757. And my average calorie percent difference was plus 0.87%. So I'll round that to a 1% surplus. The next thing that I want to do is get today's readings for my muscle mass, fat, both percent and pounds, as well as my metabolic age. I'm looking at these metrics as of June 1st because that includes the whole month of May. So to find these numbers, I open up my app for my Hume Body Pod and I navigate to Body. Then I tap here to select the chart metric. First, I'll choose lean mass. Then hit save, and I can scroll to June 1st. And tap to see the number. 84.9 pounds. So I would write that over here. And now I want to check the body fat percentage. So I'll tap here to choose that metric, body fat percentage, then hit save. And on the chart here, if I tap on a particular dot, I can see the number, 21.8%. So I'll write that over here. Now I want to check the metric for body fat mass because that takes my visceral fat into consideration. So again, I open the list of metrics here. I tap on body fat mass here and hit save. And I can see it's 25.7 pounds. So I would transfer that number over here. Finally, I want to check my metabolic age. So I would tap here and scroll down in the menu of metrics until I find metabolic age. tap to put the check mark next to it and then hit save. And I can see the number was 32 years on June 1st, so I would transfer that over here. Now I'm reflecting on my performance and experience. What did I do better this month than last month? I've been tapering up from eating in a deficit, and this month overall, I ate at a 1% surplus, which I'm pretty proud of. So here I would write, I ate at a 1% surplus. Next, can I cut added sugar? How? After some thinking, I realized that I can have just one chocolate. And when I'm eating it, I'm gonna really savor it. I'm not gonna eat it while I'm multitasking with watching a show or scrolling on my phone or having a random conversation. I'm gonna experience and notice that chocolate and really be there for the texture and the flavor. And afterwards, maybe I'm gonna have a conversation with somebody about how good the chocolate tasted or what I really liked about it so that I can extend those moments of appreciation for longer. The next question is, can I add more fiber? How? I found out that I can swap one regular tortilla for a Mission carb balanced tortilla, and that adds 17 grams of fiber. So that is an extremely simple way to get a lot more fiber, and I would write that reminder here. Next, do I want to adjust my meal plan? If yes, how? Okay, so here, after reflecting about my experience in the past few weeks, I noticed that sometimes I am getting a little bit bored with having a protein shake in the middle of the day, so I want to create one new simple meal for lunch to replace that. Next question. Any changes to portioning and prepping? If yes, what and how? I'm happy with this, so right now I wouldn't make any changes, but you might want to review your notes on page 72 where we talked about skill 5, portioning and preparing, because it may give you some inspiration for how to improve. Next, what makes things more enjoyable? Personally, I love having fresh mandarins and bananas, so this is a reminder that I should not skip grocery shopping because getting those regularly is so much nicer than eating old stuff or running out. And finally, how did I perform in unpredictable environments? In this case, we're referring back to the certainty spectrum that we introduced in Skill 8 on page 77. And when we reflect on how we performed in unpredictable environments, we're looking at how we dealt with unplanned changes. Surprises, those moments when life happens. So to help me answer this, I can review my priority monitoring sheet for May and review my activity notes. I can see that I was generally pretty consistent with showing up for my training in the gym and getting in enough steps, but what stands out as the unplanned change was when Craig's best friend Jerry crossed the Rainbow Bridge and we were navigating that loss and transition. During that time, I can see that I stayed active and I kept walking, so I can make a note about that here on my sheet. And I would say that overall, I am proud with my performance during that time because I had a balanced approach where I felt all the feels, and at the same time, I continued showing up for my health, specifically with getting enough walks in. And just like that, I've filled out the monthly check-in questions. You can see that we are not looking at every single tiny piece of data that we have. We're taking a high-level look at the most important metrics that steer our health and our quality of life in the direction that gets us fit and keeps us fit, especially as we gain in years. And we're also balancing these metrics with opportunities to think about how we can make this a more enjoyable process and acknowledge ourselves for navigating unplanned, unpredictable situations. You can see on pages 80, 81, 82, and 83 that you've got space to repeat this process every month for 12 months. My last suggestion is that you take a moment now to add a reminder to your calendar that this is a repeating activity you want to prioritize every month so that you can evaluate if you're on track. So please pause the video and take a moment to set up that reminder for yourself.
The whole point of Nourishment Navigation is that you understand how to use the food as a way of getting the results that you want. Results with both your physical body and also those results with your energy. There are really two things happening. First, there's getting the body and energy that you want. And then there's maintaining the body and energy so that you can keep it. Each one of those is its own journey. And we're excited to hear about your progress. As the months go by, you can expect to see your sweet spot numbers shift and move a bit as your level of physical activity changes. For example, your basal metabolic rate will change depending on the amount of muscle mass your body has, and that shifts your target daily intake of calories. You'll get better and better at predicting how much to eat for your fun meal because you get more and more familiar with how many calories your body burns when you do different levels of physical activity. You'll see your body composition change, and you will eventually reach the point where you want to shift from actively changing to simply maintaining. So that means that your calorie percent difference will shift from either a deficit or surplus to maintaining as close to 0% as you can. And of course, you may also decide to modify your ideal meal plan or adjust which day of the week you go shopping or portion and prep your food. All of this is about creating a lifestyle shift that enhances you, because the truth is that you won't ever be done with eating or fueling your body and brain. And that is why our highest priority is for you to gain the confidence and skill with consistently staying optimized. And the great thing is that when you're consistent and show up, you can see the progress start to happen surprisingly rapidly. If you find yourself inconsistent, too busy, or falling off during the monitoring time, like if your motivation disappears or you find yourself procrastinating or making excuses about how you don't have time or the energy for this food stuff, or also if your environment or the people around you are creating extra challenges, like if they aren't supporting your new health journey, or they're not enthusiastic about making the shifts that you're ready to make, then I recommend that you revisit the first phase of the FIT system with everything about champion activation, because that has the 3-part daily routine that sets you up to rise above those blocks and achieve your goals. When you're using that 3-part daily routine, the strongest and most capable version of you is the one who shows up to take the actions that help you stick to your meal plan, logging your macros and physical activity, and have the strength and discipline to eat in moderation. By staying in a genuinely empowered, non-judgmental place, you put yourself into a leadership position that magnetizes others to you. If you can do everything in Nourishment Navigation for yourself while you maintain a great attitude about it and genuinely enjoy your experience with your nutrition, people around you will start to become open to making the healthier shifts with their own genuine motivation and interest. Your enjoyment and your non-judgmental attitude will make it safe for them to be curious on their own timeline. Ultimately, that will be far more effective than trying to force them to do something that they're not ready for or that seems like a chore. So if you don't have that training for activating your champion, it's definitely worth considering if you notice that your motivation and discipline isn't as strong as you need it to be. If you're not achieving a physical activity level of 3 lightly active days and 4 moderately active days per week, then I recommend that you review the 3rd phase of the FIT system, which we call movement mastery. That is where we specifically discuss how to get lean and toned and strong using complete workouts to prepare your body for a vibrant, healthy life. Because remember, this isn't about sticking with the program for a few weeks or even a few months and then falling off of it. This is about making lifestyle upgrades that benefit you for decades to come. That can only happen when you understand your body and notice the unique cause and effect relationship that is always happening when you eat and move. It's about learning where your control panel is and how to take command. It's about developing self-trust and noticing the progress in your body composition. Ultimately, it's about developing this skill that frees you from needing to count calories and measure things all the time. But here's the key. Reaching that level of unconscious accuracy where your health choices happen intuitively and correctly without thinking about it takes consistent quality repetitions, practice. It's like any other skill worth mastering. The more you practice implementing these principles and priorities, the more ingrained they become in your daily life. Just like what happened when you learned to drive a car. Remember, your progress is perfection. Every quality meal counts. Every time you apply these principles at the grocery store, during your meal prep, or when choosing what to eat, whether that's at home, a restaurant, or a social gathering, you're strengthening your neural pathways that make healthy choices your new default setting. The research from University of Bergen shows us that when you prioritize eating whole foods, reducing refined and processed options, and eating in moderation, it can add years to your life. And not just that, it can add life to your years. Because when you're properly fueled, you will have the ability to show up with more energy, more clarity, and more vitality for everyone and everything on your schedule. You now understand the basics of how to maintain lean muscle mass, increase bone density, release fat, and protect yourself against preventable chronic diseases. And most importantly, you have the understanding to adapt these principles to your personal preferences. You've got what you need to make this a truly sustainable approach for life. All that is next is to keep practicing. Keep implementing. Trust that with each quality meal that you put together, even the ones that you make without any official recipe, you're moving closer to that unconscious accuracy where nourishing yourself becomes as natural as breathing or driving a car. Truly, your future self will thank you for the investment that you're making every day. Thank you for showing up for yourself throughout this program. We're so excited to see how you continue to grow and evolve with the skills that you're developing. And we look forward to hearing about your wins. Here's to your continued success with Nourishment Navigation. Appreciate you.